G'day, folks. Dean here with my good old cat, Nishka. I have a guest today. In fact, an old buddy of mine, Jason Tan. Jason has over 2 decades of experience in both sales, but also sales enablement. So, Jason is here to share his story today, a little bit about navigating career changes. So, firstly, Jason, for our audience, could I invite you to just introduce yourself, please?
Sure. First of all, Dean, thank you for welcoming and inviting me for this chat. It's really a pleasure of mine. And like you mentioned, I have over 2 decades of B2B sales and then sales enablement. And during these 2 years, it's really about knowing what selling is, not just in terms of the business wide, but what does it mean to sell and be a real salesperson in today's context itself, right? And over this past 2 decades, it has been a roller coaster ride of learning, relearning, and reinventing yourself as a salesperson. And hopefully I can share that with your audience today.
Great. Thank you, Jason. In fact, I recall in one of the workshops we actually did a long time ago, we used to
Hmm.
say that or pose a question to the workshop attendees, is selling art or science, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, yeah,
obviously the end result is it's a bit of a balance of both. Okay.
exactly,
Yeah. Now I know,
exactly.
especially over the last few years, you've seen a few changes in your career. Some
Hmm.
intended, maybe some not. So, are you able to share, what has happened over the past few years for yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So, as a salesperson, I think we are all very competitive. We always want to find our next level itself, and that also means a lot of that in the career sense, right? You want to get to the new target, the new high, new quota. So I actually moved out of the FedEx where I met Dean and into a new industry, which is the travel industry. And I was doing a great sales enablement job over there, trying to create sales process, sales methodology, and one of my passion projects about sales coaching also. But unfortunately, COVID hit, right, in 2020. And because of the industry, I was actually let go and had to spend some time, in a way, reinventing myself, as I mentioned earlier, on what value do I bring to the table as a sales enablement professional, as a sales professional also, so, right? And it's really something that maybe sometimes in the midst of our daily busy life, we don't really sit and think about what am I doing on a day-to-day basis. Am I bringing value to the table? Am I trying to find value in the future? And there's some things that, I'm guilty of when I was in the midst of all my busy schedule and all the work itself. It's only when, you're hit with a retrenchment during COVID that you're forced to think of that questions.
Mm.
And I would really urge your audience to spend a little bit of time to think about that question. What value do I bring to the table?
I
And
think,
if I do
Jason, yeah.
challenge, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, very quickly on that one, and what you're just sharing now about, the value that we represent. I don't think that's necessarily just about, sales folks, right? That's a lot of pretty much anyone in whatever job that we have. We all bring something to the table, whatever it may be.
Mm,
And so it's important to, I guess it's like a maybe a reality check or maybe like a self audit just to reevaluate our own selves. And again, asking that question, what value do I bring? So, good point to share. Okay, please continue. Okay.
yeah. So if I were to challenge your audience to take it to the next level after you find your value, a bigger question is that what sort of legacy do I want to leave behind? And that is also one of the pillars that I built upon in my career, that in every role that I have been, I always have this question as my guiding light, as my northern, north star, so to speak. What's the legacy that I want to leave behind each of my career? And looking back now, I could probably say that if the even after I've left the organization, there's a piece of work that I'm proud of, a piece of work that the organization is still using, a piece of work that people are still benefiting from. So in the grind of your daily work, which it happens to everyone, including myself, I think it's important to take some time out to think about the value I bring to the table. And if you can, challenge yourself to think about what sort of legacy you want to really leave behind in any of the work that you do.
Thank you very much for sharing, Jason. In fact, I remember when I first joined the team that you were
Hmm.
with, one of the takeaways from yourself is a lot of the coaching feedback you gave. I can recall it was very, very practical in application. So then what you shared, I had good examples and then better ideas how to apply and improve myself as well. So I do thank you for that as
Yeah,
well.
I'm,
That's
I'm
been
a
your
practical
legacy for
guy.
me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have been working with people, coaching people, guiding people, and and I'm sure you come across a lot of um tips or advice to say that, hey, Jason, I think this is an area where you could improve and do a little bit better. But what does improve? What does do better mean? It's such a broad concept. I think what would really help people is to give very usable, practical, and actionable advice itself as a coach, right? And also very important as a leader. As a leader, we always try to set vision. So I was managing a small team in one of my previous organization, and a team member has come to me to work on a content development itself. And content development is somewhat subjective. You and I have done that before, right? How the slide is presented, how the color is presented, how you want to structure the flow, it is somewhat subjective. And rather than give it, think, hey, Jason, I don't think the flow is very smooth. People may not understand. I think what is really useful is to help people understand practically where you're coming from and give advice and guidance on things like, hey, the flow is not so good because when I read this part of the content, it doesn't lead me into the next part of the content, therefore might create some confusion. So to give very practical advice, and I carry that with me today. And for me also, I try to seek that out with every leaders I engage. Please let me know how I can do better next time with very
Mm.
um, actionable items.
Good tip. Thanks for sharing, Jason. And I guess to add on to that as well, what we need to
Yeah.
constantly remind ourselves is whatever we're designing, whatever content or slide or whatever the case, think about the audience. How would they interpret, understand, and then know where to go next from
Mm.
there, right? It's one thing to have
Yeah, exactly.
our own perspective on the matter, but we've got to constantly think about our audience, who they are.
Exactly.
Okay, so nice little
Exactly.
tip there. Now, coming back to you, there were some challenges you mentioned over the last few years, and
Yeah,
the company that you were working with, that was the travel industry, right? So,
that's right.
of course, that had a particular impact at that time and point in time. So then you had to reinvent yourself, right? I
That's right.
imagine, especially in
Yeah.
those years, a lot of folks would have been going through similar. And even if we look at now, in some respects, a
Hmm.
little bit of history repeating itself, meaning that even today's market, folks may be looking for new jobs or careers. Again, both intentional or not. They might be a part of the situation that they're in. So could you share a little bit about your journey, what you were doing to find other jobs? And, was that an easy process for you?
Yeah, Dean, I can tell you it's definitely not an easy process. And I can share with everyone here that within the last, I would say, 4 years, I have been on the job market three times, not within my control. So three times I had to reinvent myself. And coming to my earlier point, right, trying to understand what my audience wants from me as employees to them as employer, right? What value do I bring to the table and every time? And it's a challenge in the sense of from a practical side, what do I put on my CV? What sort of work have I done that I can show to my potential employer, hey, this is the work that I can do. And based on your job description, this is what I can help you with itself. So it's always positioning how I can help you solve a problem. It is
Hmm.
not about what I've done. It's not about how great I am, but it's really taking all those things and put it across to say that this is how my skill sets, my experience, my knowledge can help you solve the problem. It is
Mm.
always to position it that way. It's about knowing your audience, like I mentioned.
Yeah, but exactly. I was just about to say the same
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
know who your employer is and what is the background for them having that posting or that job in the first place, right?
Exactly.
Now, I know a lot of folks do struggle, especially when they are looking for jobs or alternate jobs as such.
Right.
And I know
Right.
that, rejection can be very, very common. It's a very common
Hmm.
thing to have to deal with in sales in the first place, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Not every customer is always going to say yes. So, when we're looking at the jobs market, we have to take care of our families, right? We have to look after the income stream to maintain family lifestyle, etc. But if we're not getting to that, interview process, it can be very challenging mentally, right?
It
So,
is.
do you
It
have
does.
any tips for folks who are struggling in that area? I mean, the one thing is the application itself, but the other thing
Mhm.
is the mindset, and also to be able to deal with the potential rejection. So,
Yeah.
Jason, what have you experienced in that area?
First of all, I would say that it can lead you to very dark places. I've been through that. So for anyone going through this period, I totally understand. And I would like to say that it is absolutely normal to get those feelings. And what really helped me through these dark times was some of the persistence, persistency, some of the ability to put up with rejections as a salesperson. And knowing that rejection is part of process that will lead you to your end goal itself. So always keep the end goal in mind. All right. Keeping that end goal in mind, I think helps me a lot. It might help some of your audience also. That's one. I think secondly is to focus on what you can control. And what that means is that what you can control is your CV. How can I brush up my CV? How can I make sure my LinkedIn is updated? What kind of online courses or training can I go for to upgrade myself to make my CV looks better? So all these things that's within your control, do them. Keep yourself busy, keep your mind active, and I would not advise anyone to just stay still and do nothing and hope for the best. For me, that is definitely not a good approach. I just feel that it just leads you to even a darker place itself.
Mm,
So do
mm.
what you can within your control itself.
Very much so. Definitely stay active, whatever
Yeah,
it may be, even if it means maintaining physical activity, right, or exercise or
right,
sport, just to make sure
right,
that we're doing something actively, not just sitting there. Uh,
exactly. And make connections with your friends, your colleagues, and having someone close that you can talk to about your issues. If it's not to solve a problem, to say that, hey, Dean, look, I'm looking for a job. I'm not getting successful. This sucks. And having to look for someone who can you talk to, I think is so important for your mental health because I think once you're in a dark place and you don't put yourself out of there, it can be very, very tough. So if you can continue to make that connections with friends, your ex-colleagues, whatever, whoever, I
mm.
think it really helps a lot.
Definitely. And I think just adding on to that point as well, that social network or the social support, for
Mm,
sure, we need to have people that we can confide in, that we can trust. But it
yeah,
also takes a lot of courage for ourselves to reach out to our trusted network to let them know what we're going through as well. So it's
mhm,
a very important message that rather than keep things to ourselves, be brave,
yeah,
reach out to those we
exactly,
can trust. Yep. And share.
exactly. And
Yep.
you remember sales, we had this saying, you never ask, you never get. Right.
Very
Yeah.
true. Yes.
Don't be shy.
Mm.
Reach out politely. And there is some awkwardness if you need to reach out to somebody whom you don't really contact. But I think these days people understand networking is there, is here. There's nothing to be shy about it. I think we approach it with humility, with a lot of politeness, with being humble, right? I think people are willing to help. I have not encountered anybody who say that, no, Jason, I'm not going to help you. I think everyone tries their best. So I would say reach out, make the connection, never ask, you never get, you never know what's going to happen.
Very true. And I guess it's all
Yeah,
about building relationships, whether they've been formed online or in person, but be genuine, right? And
exactly, exactly.
just a twist on what you were saying. We often used to say the answer will always be no until you ask the question. And again, be
Exactly.
genuine and reach out. Well,
Yeah.
Jason, definitely good learnings, good tips, and thank you for sharing your story as well. So, I guess if there is one final thought, one final takeaway that you'd like to leave for our audience, what would that be?
I would say just keep learning,
Hmm.
keep growing, and keeping an open mind. I think with
Mm.
those three things, be it in a good spot, you only can see yourself being elevated to the next level. Or if you are in a darker place, I think those three things can also help you to lift you out of those dark areas and bring you towards where you want to be yourself. So I think I'll leave your audience with that.
Thank you very much, Jason. So learning,
Thank you, Dean.
keep growing, and keep an open mind as well. Okay.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful for sharing. And again, Jason, we really appreciate your time. We meaning Nishka as well. So I'm sure
Yeah.
she's been listening into the background as well. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Thank you,
And
Dean. And really, again, I really appreciate it. And we are talking about connections. Dean and I, we stay connected throughout all these years, even though we are not working together. And it's really, I really cherish this kind of. We started with colleagues, but now we become friends. And even though we are miles, thousands of miles away from each other, but we stay connected. I think that's so important these days.
and that's another key message in this world, especially. It's so easy to click connect.
Yeah,
But then how many of us take it to the next level and actually reach out to have a conversation? Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
On that note, Jason, thank you again for your time. Folks,
Thank you.
stay tuned for future conversations, learning and sharing in our journeys. We'll sign off from here. Bye all.
Bye bye.